Good evening, dear viewers. Welcome to the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television. In our top stories, Mancho BBC, leader of the Coffin Revolution, has called for the back to school come September 2019 in Anglophone Cameroon. This is contained in a document signed recently. It is coming after over 600,000 children have been displaced in Anglophone Cameroon as a result of the Anglophone crisis, and they've been prevented from pursuing their fundamental rights to education. And equally, you'll be getting how the Chief Justice Ayapol Abine, that's former Supreme Judge, who has equally endorsed Mancho BBC's campaign for back to school across Anglophone Cameroon. That was on Monday on his Facebook wall. And he, however, regrets the fact that it might be difficult due to the prevailing insecurity situations in the two English-speaking regions of the country. And we'll equally be talking about the AFCON 2019. That will be a smart page of the AFCON 2019 in Egypt. Good evening to you once more, viewers. Thanks for joining us in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television. We begin with this news where over 600,000 children in the northwest and southwest regions of the country have been prevented from pursuing their fundamental rights to education since 2016 that the Anglophone crisis began. And Mancho BBC, leader of the Coffin Revolution, has continued pressurizing on the campaign back to school in the two English-speaking regions of the country. It is contained equally in a document that he recently signed in Kunengi, where he is incarcerated. This is in connection or in line with the signature of Felix Galem, who is equally a detainee of the Anglophone crisis. More in this report compiled by Hemin Eluga.
The struggle has been now over 3 years, one which has nailed the destiny of many, most especially school children who haven't been able to acquire knowledge in classrooms. Being an utmost endless socio-political struggle, countless strategies have been initiated by the government to bring back order in this crisis-hit region to no avail. The local community rather adheres to safety measures. School children have stayed away from classrooms due to the fear of the unknown. Added to previous attempts to resolve the crisis comes in Mancho BBC, leader of the November 21, 2016 Coffin Revolution, who says the education of a generation cannot be sacrificed for anything, no matter how legitimate the claims could be. He therefore stands for school resumption this coming academic year. We would recall Mancho's Coffin Revolution of November 2016 coincided with an Anglophone teacher strike, which called in support of grievances expressed by common law lawyers at the time. It was precisely on this day that the latter denounced the slow rate of economic and structural development in the city, declaring he was ready to die while protesting against the social and economic marginalization of Anglophone, a set minority. While currently serving a 15-year jail term at the Yaoundé Central Prison after his arrest on January 19, 2017 in Bamenda Northwest Region, and tried at the Yaoundé Military Court on charges of terrorism and secession, amongst others. Mancho BBC joined his voice to that of Human Rights Watch and the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, to call for effective school resumption.
While Mancho BBC, leader of the Coffin Revolution, continues pressurizing the need for children to go back to school in the northwest and southwest region of the country, insecurity continues to disturb this move. Meantime, his decision has been endorsed by Ayapol Abine. That was on Monday on his Facebook wall. He, however, regrets the fact that the prevailing insecurity in the two English-speaking regions of the country will not allow effective resumption of schools in the two English-speaking regions of the country rocked by the Anglophone crisis. More in this report. Chief Justice Ayapola Abine on his Facebook wall Monday endorsed the back-to-school campaign of the Coffin Revolution leader Mancho BBC across Anglophone Cameroon next September. Ayapola Abine, while mentioning there can be no nobler cause, raised a bet on a major cause for concern that remains. He projected insecurity or the war in Anglophone Cameroon, which differs from that of foreign countries like Syria, while describing destructions in such foreign wars as inadvertent or better still accidental, with undesirable consequences recorded. Ayapola Abine outlined that the Anglophone war rather sees homes deliberately razed in villages, schools attacked and burnt down on purpose, wounded persons extracted from hospitals and put to death through extrajudicial killings with impunity. An Anglophone war where homes are broken into and innocent persons unscrupulously shot and killed. Still distinguishing the war in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, the former Supreme Judge wrote that the young are the principal target, worsening matters. He cited an example being the shooting to death the 2-month-old baby in Moyuka months back, needless talking about young male youths seen in motion. Ayapola Abine thus wonders where and how the child is safe in the face of prevailing insecurity. To him, one would dare say that in the absence of an official truce and concrete demonstration of official valuing of human lives, especially amber human lives, invitation to return to school is akin to invitation to their death. The government, he says, must do much more. In what he writes, final analysis, Ayapola Abine says it is for every parent to evaluate the safety for their children in school and take the necessary decision. He added that what some quarreled with in the past was the amber authorities placing general embargo on children going to school. Now that the embargo has been lifted, the retired justice noted one were there to opine that attendance may not be a collective resolution as safety remains highly at stake. The Cameroon Development Corporation, CDC, which has adversely been hit by the Anglophone crisis, calls on the government of Cameroon to facilitate the payment of 9 billion francs CFA remaining, a subvention of 13 billion promised by the states to pay workers. This was echoed during the visit of the minister at CDC. More with Davison Maimo.
It is his maiden visit to the Cameroon Development Corporation, the CDC, since his appointment as Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. The board chair of the Cameroon Development Corporation used the occasion to remind the minister of CDC's place in the economy of Cameroon.
Cameroon is basically a rurally based economy, and agriculture plays a very important part in that economy.
However, it was an opportunity for the General Manager of the Cameroon Development Corporation, the CDC, to inform the minister of the prevailing state of the corporation.
We are visiting CDC at a time when she is horrendously hit by the ongoing socio-political crisis in the southwest and northwest regions. Indeed, we realized at the beginning of 2018 that CDC is a strategic target of the secessionists. The scars are palpably visible. Your Excellency, as at this date, 16 CDC workers have been killed. 9 workers have sustained injuries of varying degrees from gunshots. 98 workers have suffered from assault ranging from fingers chopped off to kidnapping for ransom and physical violence. More than 11,600 jobs are seriously threatened. the corporation is unable to satisfy her contractual obligations, both the domestic market and international.
Nonetheless, the staff representative presented the state of affairs vis-à-vis the Anglophone crisis.
The above statistics shows that the crisis within the CDC's areas of operation is growing day by day. The impact this disturbing situation is having on the CDC workers in particular and the economy of Cameroon in general. Rubber estates, 11 in number, 7 closed. Rubber factories, 5 in number, 3 closed. Palm estates, 7 in number, 4 shut down. Oil palm mills, 3 in number, 2 shut. Banana estates, 5 in number, all 5 are shut down. Banana park houses, 16 in number, all 16 shut down. Malfe project, 1 shut down. Ndonga and Manton project, 1 shut down.
The minister, in his response, assured the corporation of government commitment towards the well-being of the Cameroon Development Corporation.
Rest assured that we appreciate all work done by the General Manager to ensure to process the CDC subvention, and thus I want to assure you of my commitment to ensure that you receive something very, very soon. I wish to instruct the General Manager to ensure that the state subvention destined for paying salary arrears be used for the sole purpose for which it is meant.
The key message from management and staffs to the minister was simple and direct.
The state should remove CDC from the list of companies earmarked for privatization. Being a state-owned corporation, government should grant CDC tax exemption for a period of 5 years to enable CDC rebuild itself. Speed up the payment of the outstanding 9.3 billion francs CFA by the Ministry of Finance to CDC to cater for workers' salaries up to December 2018. Intervene in foul trade union from 8 days ultimatum given by CLPS to seal their doors for dues amounting to 829,319 francs during this period of non-payment of CDC workers' salaries. Create an enabling atmosphere for effective work to resume in all of CDC's plantations. We, the workers of Cameroon Development Corporation, appeal to government to call for dialogue as soon as possible, so that together we can assist the head of state in solving the socio-political crisis and safeguarding the CDC.
The minister, after visiting some of the less heat estate, then ended his visit to the Pay Banana Factory at Likumba Village in Tiko subdivision, where work is ongoing under tight security.
It is the only banana factory in the entire southwest region that is actually working, even though partially. After attack last year, August, the people are still.
That was Davison Maimo on that in-depth report on the crisis CDC, or the Cameroon Development Corporation, faces as the Anglophone crisis continues. And now some Cameroonians have castigated the letter of Member of Parliament of the South region of Cameroon on the anti-Biya protest in Geneva, Switzerland. Recently, some qualify it as shameful and anti-republican. Details with Fomi Armstrong-Sander.
The letter written by members of parliament of the South region of Cameroon condemning the June 29 anti-Biya protest in Switzerland is generating conflicting reactions from Cameroonians. Their declaration has largely been associated with tribalism by some individuals on social and mainstream media in Cameroon. But to one of the signatories, Honorable Jean-Jacques Zam, their prime concern was to reiterate the necessity to respect the figure of the president, who is not Mr. Paul Biya, but the president of the Republic of Cameroon. Honorable Jean-Jacques Zam says members of parliament of the South region of Cameroon in their declaration question the idea of protesters, not their ethnic origin, though he says his critical look shows that the Geneva, Switzerland protesters are all from a certain region of Cameroon. He argued that they had no intention to stigmatize Cameroonians of West regional origin. Honorable Zam says they will not dance to the tune of individuals advancing genocidal cause in Cameroon, advancing that such individuals should be punished by the law. Even without the signature of Honorable Martin Oyono, MP of the same region, signatories of the declaration say they are all in solidarity with the content, highlighting that Honorable Martin Oyono failed to sign as a result of ill health. Like some Cameroonians on social media, Honorable Jean-Michel Nenche, SDF member of parliament for the Littoral, in a release condemned the declaration of his colleagues of the South region, qualifying it as a shameful and anti-republican act.
And the nightmare witnessed by road users plying, or better still, drivers plying the national road number 5 in Kongsamba would be a thing of the past, as initiatives have been put in place to ensure that the road is rehabilitated. Immaculate Fogwe compiled some reactions to these initiatives put in place.
The circulation of vehicles and persons on the National Road number 5, precisely at Foyer Culturel in Kongsamba, Littoral region of Cameroon, inhabitants say, is a veritable nightmare. The bumpy and slippery state of this road, plied on for the past 35 years, locals say, has retarded the advancement of development in the area. Despite the hurdles faced on a daily basis by the inhabitants, not everyone is pleased with the announced start of construction work on the dilapidated stretch of road. Construction work on this stretch of road kick-started few weeks ago, but several inhabitants, including this mother, are paradoxically angry because of the destruction brought by the construction work. I am speechless. All of my crops were destroyed. I depend on the food I harvest from this farm. I am just a poor farmer. When I asked those who were behind the destruction of our farms, I was told it was the government. I don't know how I and my family will cope. Okay. However, majority see the road construction work as a welcome initiative worth saluting, except we are very happy with the tarring of this road. We have been suffering with this road for the past 35 years. Our parents are unfortunate not to have seen this. When it used to rain, this road becomes very muddy. This project, when completed, is believed will serve as a booster to the economic and social life on a national road number 5 and to that locality in particular.
And now, over 200 ex-Boko Haram fighters have deliberately laid down their arms to be integrated into normal life, that is the far north region of the country. And the president of the National Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Commission, Yengo Francis, alongside the International Organization for Migration and the United Nations Development Program, say it is an initiative that has so far witnessed some fruits. More in this report, compiled by Hermine Luga.
With security threats faced in Cameroon, it is thus good news. Good news to have over 150 ex-Boko Haram members drop their arms. We have been here for over months now. Our families visit us. We are well taken care of. No insults, no threats. We are given soap, cloths and slippers. We are being given all we need. Cameroon's National Committee on Reintegration confirms its centers in the far north region is hosting these ex-fighters of terror group Boko Haram who have voluntarily laid down their weapons. Fai Yingo Francis, head of the Reintegration Committee, assures the public on the fact that the fighters will benefit from professional training in diverse domains such as agriculture, livestock, business, handicraft, amongst others, during their stay in the center. Our mission is to make sure those children better citizens. You know the effect of such. So we don't want to resolve one problem and create another. For now, we have a focus. We pay lots of attention on the aspect of security. A strategy used to ensure the good conduct of these ones will be realized with the collaboration of the International Organization for Migration and United Nations Development Program. Worthy to note, Cameroon is facing serious security challenges in the two English-speaking regions alongside the far north region, with Boko Haram attacks. On a strategic move to address the crisis, government put in place the National Committee on Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration.
For the youths to have a place in the society, they must start investing and not consuming. This is a remark advanced by Mr. Mosuke Lucas Lyonga, an educationist to university students in Boya that was in a seminar organized over the weekend. Derijato has more.
They say they are the active force of every society. The age group with the sharpest brains to change and adapt, especially with the changing technology. But yet, these youth keep on complaining that they don't feel belong in their own environment. They ought to have been on the driving seat.
Financially, it's really tough. It's really tough in Cameroon. Actually,
where then is the problem? No one is spared, for even the youth who have gone to school are also wanting.
Go to school, yes, they go to school with wisdom. We are in a age now that we don't just go to school because we want to go to school. We go to school because we know what we need to go and take one thing from there and add. That makes sense.
These are university students attending a seminar in Boya on how to think different. And today, Mr. Mosoke Lucas Lyonga, a motivational speaker and the organizer of this seminar, is telling these Cameroonian youth to stop thinking like Cameroonian youth.
Most Cameroonians think the way of consumption, not the way of investment. Not to think the way of Cameroon is not to think the way of consumption, but rather to think the way of investment, because it is investment that brings development.
And after the session, some of these participants started pointing where they have been going wrong.
Actually, we as youths of today, we face so many challenges like dependency, because like students we depend most on our parents, which is not actually the best.
The challenges of the youth, they don't look, they don't search, they don't do findings to see what is happening around.
But to others, the Cameroon government poor educational system is responsible for their frustration.
Yeah, for me, I would shift the blame to the government, but
Mr. Mosoke Lucas Lyonga, at the end of the day, told these youth that thinking the way out of their predicament is directly controlling the wheels to success, and the choice is theirs.
Up next is the smart sides of AFCON 2019 in Egypt. And we are welcoming Smart Jikan Gabriel. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening to you, Innocent Aze.
The AFCON 2019 continues in Egypt, though no match has been played, but there's a lot to take back home.
Yes, the Egyptian rendezvous is still on. The players or the teams that are left in the competition, they have a day of recess. That is today, just 24 hours, and action will resume tomorrow out there in Egypt. And before we take you through the what we have this evening, to note that during the round of 8, there is a knockout phase, the first knockout phase, round of 16. There were 19 goals that were scored in 8 matches that were played. Totally, just now, we have 44 matches already played at the competition, with 87 goals scored, 1.98 goals scored per match. That is the situation in terms of statistics, in terms of goals that have been scored at that competition. And top scorers this far who are still left in the competition, we have Ojo Igalo of Nigeria, we have Adam Unas of Algeria, and Sadio Mane of Senegal, alongside Cedric Bakambu of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Unfortunately, Cedric Bakambu is already out of the race, so the top goal scorers of the competition, the Golden Boot, will certainly be fought between Ojo Igalo, Adam Unas, Sadio Mane of Senegal, Algeria, and Nigeria in that order. And to note, any of them might leave at the end of this knockout phase as the quarterfinals that will start tomorrow. Now, talking about the matches that were played, we reviewed those matches that were played yesterday first, to know that in the first game we saw Tunisia that played against Ghana. It was a match that Tunisia wanted by all costs to defeat Ghana. We know that Tunisia has been unable to beat Ghana in an African Cup of Nations tournament, whether in a group stage, quarterfinals, or third place. But yesterday the Tunisians were more determined to break that curse that has been placed on them by the Black Stars of Ghana, and it was 1-1 during regular play times. And it should be we should note that Ghana did not score a goal yesterday, because the two goals that were scored for a 1-1 draw all came from the Tunisian, one an own goal and the other a Tunisian player. So it ended 1-1 on regular play time, and during post-match penalty shootout, it was a Tunisian side that eliminated Ghana, the Black Stars of Ghana, by a total number of 4-2. And to know that Black Stars of Ghana, many were expecting them to stay in the competition, but unfortunately they have been booted out, and their hope of clinching maybe a second title is off. Now, talking about Ghana's participation in an African Cup of Nations, we had time to go through that number and the history. To note, they were appearing for the 16th time in the competition. They have appeared 4 times, or they have had 4 times group stage elimination. They have also had 4 times fourth place positioning, 3 times quarterfinal position that they have arrived, and 3 times they have played the second, 3 times they have ended as second, and third place just once, and they have won the African Nations Cup just once. That was in 1982. Ghana was hoping to get a win to continue this competition. Unfortunately for them, they will still have to stay back and wait. Now, talking about the other match that was played, or talking about Alain Giresse, remember at the end of the press, at the end of the match yesterday, Alain Giresse was very, very categorical in his outing in the press conference. Alain Giresse said, and I quote him, "It was a hard win. We qualified, and that's what's important. This is now the knockout stage, and I decided to use Ben Mustafa at the end because he is excellent with penalties." So that was the secret of Alain Giresse that won Ghana against Ghana. That was yesterday. Now, before this game, before the match between Ghana and Tunisia, we had to look through their group matches in the competition, the African Cup of Nations. Ghana and Egypt or Tunisia had different records in terms of victories. Ghana had 1 win, and Tunisia recorded no win from the group stage right up to the knockout phase, where they defeated Ghana. And they also had Ghana had 2 draws, while Tunisia had all 3, and none of them missed a game or suffered a defeat in the group stage, or right up to matches that were played yesterday. And Ghana recorded 5 points out of a possible 9 at the group stage, while Tunisia in 3 draws recorded 3 points. So that is what the situation between Ghana and Tunisia. Now, talking about the other game that was played yesterday, it was between the Eagles of Mali against the Elephant of Ivory Coast. 1 goal from Zaha, Wilfred Zaha eliminated the Eagles of Mali. Yesterday, the Eagles of Mali, we know they have been so wonderful in their group matches, and they managed to pick up 2 victories and a draw, but unfortunately they were stopped at the level of the 8 finals, and it was Ivory Coast that eliminated them. Head-to-head between Mali and Ivory Coast before they met in that mouth-watering encounter that was yesterday. The head-to-head statistic shows us that the two sides had almost the same records at the group stage of the competition. 2 wins for Mali, 2 wins for Ivory Coast, 1 draw for Mali, no draw for Ivory Coast, no defeat for Mali, 1 defeat for Ivory Coast, and Mali ended with 7 points in their group, while Ivory Coast ended with 6 points, 1 point different. But notwithstanding, Ivory Coast eliminated Mali. It was a West African derby that we watched yesterday. And talking about matches that will be coming up now, the Super Eagles of Nigeria, they will be playing one of the games tomorrow. As we know, the Super Eagles of Nigeria, they have already left Alexandria. They are presently out there in Cairo, Egypt, where they are expected to play their first match. That will be tomorrow. That will be depending if they are going to win. As we speak presently, they have already left the Henan Palestine Hotel, and where they trained at the Arab Academy for Science, Technology and Maritime Transport School for a good number of time. This time around, they have already moved to their new training ground, which is up in Cairo, and they will be playing against their opponent South Africa tomorrow. Now today there was a press conference before the match, a brief press conference before matches, and we had Gernot Rohr and of course Ojo Igalo, one of the top scorers of the competition. Gernot Rohr, if I have to quote some of its words, he is very optimistic to play against South Africa, and they have been watching South Africa critically. Now talking about the head coach of South Africa, Stuart Baxter, he also says they are working in line with the opponents that they have. Now a little brief history between Nigeria and South Africa before they meet tomorrow. It will be the 6th time, or it will be the 14th time that Nigeria will be playing against Ghana, and out of this 14 or the 13 previous times that they have met, Nigeria has 6 victories against 5 for South Africa and 2 draws. That is just to tell you how close these two countries are. And in the African Cup of Nations, Nigeria has they have played 6 times in the African Cup of Nations, with 3 wins for Nigeria, 2 for South Africa and 1 draw. That is just the situation of that match that will be coming up tomorrow between Nigeria and South Africa. Now, just for us to remind our televiewers, the program for tomorrow's matches, we already have them. The first 2 quarterfinal matches will be coming up tomorrow, 5 o'clock and of course 8 p.m. Cameroon time. The first game at 5 will see Senegal that will play against Benin. That is the first encounter. And the second game that will start at 8 p.m. Cameroon time is the Super Eagles versus South Africa, the Bafana of South Africa. Now, last information we are having from Egypt tells us, or from Morocco, says this man Everina, who actually led Zambia and Ivory Coast to Nations Cup victory, has finally decided to resign from his position as the head coach of Morocco, the Atlas Lion. Everina, we know, was his team was eliminated by the Squirrels of Benin during post-match penalty shootout at the level of the quarterfinals, and we know that Everina came into Morocco in 2016 and led the Atlas Lions to FIFA 2018 World Cup in Russia. We know that after the Moroccan side won the Nations Cup in 1976, 43 years in the cold, till now they have not been able to pick up another win. So it is another long wait again for the Moroccan side that will have to wait for a new coach. We should note that Everina joins the like of Javier Aguirre of Egypt. We have Sunday Chidi Zambwa of Zimbabwe, Emmanuel Aminike of Tanzania, who have all been sacked because of poor results as a result of the African Cup of Nations poor outing. Now, maybe we'll finish to announce good news that even though the indomitable Lions of Cameroon have been pushed out of the competition, we have some Cameroonians who are still making us proud. In Egypt, we are talking about the men in black, and we hear that the quarterfinals match between Madagascar Madagascar and Tunisia will be handled by 3 Cameroonian referees, excluding the video assistant. Remember that from quarterfinals tomorrow, we shall have the video assistant referee that will be introduced in the African Cup of Nations. So we have Alium Sidi, who will be the central referee for the match between Madagascar and Tunisia. Evaris Mekwande will be the first assistant, and the second assistant referee will be Elvis Guy Nupwe, who will be handling the game. Tunisia, Madagascar is a quarterfinals match, and to tell you, Cameroon's flag is still very up out there in Egypt.
Indeed, Simanjukan Gabriel, thanks so much for coming.
Tomorrow is another day. Maybe by this time we shall be talking about the first nations that have qualified, if possible, maybe to give the results. But I know by now matches will still be going on.
Indeed, and that's it for the smart sites of AFCON 2019 in Egypt. As Ivali said, tomorrow is another day. Thanks for watching.